Celebration of life, Mrs. Annette Twyman Robertson, age 61 of Talladega, is Saturday at 3 o'clock from S.M. Goodson Funeral Home Chapel with Pastor Pamela Calhoun officiating. Interment in the Harper Springs Church Cemetery in Sylacauga. Public viewing Saturday from 1 until 3 at S.M. Goodson Funeral Home. S.M. Goodson Funeral Home directing. Funeral service for Charles Wilson will be noon today at Community Funeral Home in Sylacauga, with burial on Monday at Veterans National Memorial Cemetery in Montevallo. Community Funeral Home directing. Graveside service for Michael B. Kidd is today at noon from New Hope Missionary Baptist Church in Sylacauga. Community Funeral Home directing. Willa Dean Prater. Graveside service for Miss Prater will be Saturday at 11 o'clock from Sylacauga Cemetery. Visitation is today at Community Funeral Home from 1 until 7. Community Funeral Home directing. Graveside service for Julius Twyman will be 1 o'clock on Saturday at Pine Grove Missionary Baptist Church Cemetery. Visitation is today 1 until 7 at the funeral home with a family hour 5 till 7. All Community Funeral Home in Sylacauga. Funeral service for Carla Hurd will be Saturday at 1 o'clock from Rising Star Missionary Baptist Church with burial in the Evergreen Cemetery. Visitation is today 1 until 7 at the funeral home. Community Funeral Home directing. Memorial service for Lawrence Edward Chapman will be 1 o'clock Saturday at Community Funeral Home Chapel in Sylacauga. And funeral service for Robert Stone Jr. Will be Saturday at 3 o'clock from Community Funeral Home Chapel with burial in the Pleasant Hill Baptist Church Cemetery. Visitation today at Community Funeral Home from 1 until 7. Community Funeral Home directing that service. And Magaline Moon Brazier died January 28th at Brookwood Medical Center. Community Funeral Home announcing. Funeral services for Mrs. Mary Tutu Booker Hunley, age 65 of Talladega, will be Saturday at 11 from Pine Hill Cemetery in Talladega with the Reverend Terry Wilson officiating. The final interment will commence following the service. Public viewing is today from 2 until 6 o'clock at the funeral home, S.M. Goodson Funeral Home in Talladega directing. Funeral service for Essie Edna Wilson, age 93, will be Saturday at noon from Radley Smith Funeral Home Chapel with the Reverend Keith Dennis officiating. Burial will be Monday at Green Hill Cemetery in Childersburg. Miss Wilson died at DCH Regional Medical Center in Anniston on January 27th. Visitation Saturday from 11 until noon at the funeral home. Radley Smith Funeral Home, Sylacauga directing. Lisa Renee Davis, age 48 of Sylacauga, died January 28th. Radley Smith Funeral Home announcing. Graveside service for Gloria T. Sinclair, age 83 of Alexander City, will be today at 2 o'clock from Hillview Memorial Park with the Reverend Patrick Sinclair officiating. Ms. Sinclair died Tuesday, January 26th at her residence. She was a member of the Wayside Baptist Church in Alexander City. Memorials can be made to the Save a Life of Tallapoosa County, 5 Lee Street, Alexander City, Alabama, 35010. Radley Funeral Home, Alexander City directing. Funeral service for David Larry Chief McDade, age 72 of Sylacauga, will be Saturday at 2 o'clock from Rockford Baptist Church with Dr. Jeff Fuller officiating. Mr. McDade died January 25th at his residence. Visitation Saturday 1 until 2 at the church. And Radley Smith Funeral Home in Sylacauga directing. Charles C. Buchanan, age 94, died January 22nd. Graveside service for Mr. Buchanan will be today at Hepzibah Baptist Church Cemetery at 2 o'clock with Randy Hagan officiating. Family receiving friends at Ursery Funeral Home today from 12:30 to 1:30. Ursery Funeral Home, Talladega directing. Graveside funeral service for Anna Allegra Ellison, age 77, is today at 1 o'clock from Valley Hill Memorial Gardens with Pete Rich officiating. Ursery Funeral Home, Pell City directing. Graveside service for Mr. Billy Charles Yates will be today at noon from Hillview Memorial Park with the Reverend Don DeLee officiating. Wright's Funeral Home, Alexander City, in charge of the arrangements. And funeral service for Mr. Robbie Johnson Jr. is 1 o'clock Saturday at Wright's Funeral Home Chapel in Alexander City with burial in the New Life Memorial Gardens. Wright's Funeral Home in Alexander City in charge of the arrangements. This obituary report this morning brought to you by Curtis & Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg.